truly matters, our families. Healthy families make healthy societies. I'm Randy.
And I'm Leslie. We're diving deep into the powerful insights of Dr. Randy's groundbreaking book, The Family Legacy: Shaping Culture from the Inside Out.
Hear inspiring stories and strategies to transform your family. We'll explore topics like communication, forgiveness, healing, parenting, marriage. We'll cover it all.
We'll have provoking conversations with experts, coaches, and real-life families who are benefiting from intentional family building.
This podcast isn't just about theories, it's about tools that you can implement today.
We all come from families, so this podcast is for you.
Join us on this incredible family journey. Subscribe now as we learn to do family as God designed.
Transforming families one episode at a time. Remember, whoever wins the family wins the culture in the end. Let's go.
Introducing the Family Digital Bundle, a powerful collection designed to transform your family's journey towards healing, growth, and thriving.
At the heart of this bundle is the best-selling book and workbook, The Family Legacy: Shaping Culture from the Inside Out, written by Dr. Randall Bixby.
With insightful wisdom and practical advice, these resources offer a roadmap for building a strong family legacy that shapes the culture of generations to come.
But that's not all. Our Family Digital Bundle includes an e-course, over 9 hours of how-to videos, equipping you with practical tools and expert guidance to help your family.
Imagine your family, a place where love, growth, and connection come together. Isn't it time to build a better family? If not now, when?
Invest in your family. Order the Family Digital Bundle today by clicking the link below or visit our website, thefamilyreformationproject.com.
Hi there, welcome to the show today. We are excited in this episode to have with us quite a special guest, really talking about one of the things I believe is right at the forefront of culture. I am Randy.
I'm Leslie.
And this is Transforming Families with Randy and Leslie. And one of the hot button issues right now in our culture is the education of our kids. And I remember, as I'm getting old now, over 30 years ago in Bible college doing a study on the New Age Manifesto. And in that manifesto, the strategy was clear. It's not a new strategy, but it was to go after the young and to go after them in our education system. And it predates the new age movement, by the way. Communism has some very similar tendencies. All of that to say, right now, all across our nation here in the United States, we've got school boards that are upset with parents that are upset with school boards. We've got children being indoctrinated, forced. It's a mess, and we're going to talk more about the mess. But we are really excited today to have one of our new friends and really a great man of God and his wife. I don't think she's joined us today, but he's going to be with us. And I'm going to have Leslie introduce him, and we're going to bring him on, and we're going to talk about what does it look like to reform education? What's our responsibility, and how does that really play into the big part in our family's responsibility to educate our kids? So with that, why don't you introduce our guest?
Yeah, our guest is Matthew Palant. Matthew and his wife, Shany, live in Fort Worth, Texas. They are the founders of Kingdom Living Ministry, where they've planted churches, ministered to unreached people groups, built and established a primary school, and currently have almost a dozen teens and young adults that they're putting through high school and or college, all primarily in Kenya. While they visited, lived, and ministered to other surrounding African countries, their primary focus has been in Kenya. They lived in Mexico in an active war zone for almost 3 years, ministering in the brothels, bar districts, prison, local churches, and helped to coordinate and facilitate pastoral conferences for the local and regional pastors. After having their first child in Mexico, they transitioned back to the United States and planted themselves into a local church where Matthew's the associate pastor. They now have 4 children, ages 5, 3, 2, and a new one, 5 months old now. And they're focusing on giving families another option that secular, the public and private schooling, doesn't offer. They believe it's time for the church to rise up and take their place of authority to displace the darkness and demonic assignment that is controlling our education system. So, Matthew, welcome. We are so honored that you've joined us here today.
Thank you so much, Randy and Leslie. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. Hey, first things first, we always like to start with this just in short. Tell us about your family.
Well, like Leslie mentioned, I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 5-month-old. So it's a full house. It's wild and it's a lot of fun. Obviously, my wife, as well. Just a very busy season right now with ministry and starting our school and just doing family.
Yeah.
But thankfully we have a plan. We work together, and really with some of the tools that we've learned from the Family Reformation Project, we're just continuing to be able to just overcome the obstacles and the challenges that come.
Yeah. I want to start right, I think, at a real good starting point. And that is, as we've been walking together this last year or so around family, you started to encounter some things with your children at school that really provoked you and started, I guess, the clock on the tick down to when this school is going to be launched. Talk to us about what happened in the schools.
Yeah. So, I mean, this Christian Montessori Academy has been on our heart for a while, but I don't know, about a year or so ago, in our house, just reading your Bible. We're not religious by any means. We live in an active, real
Yeah.
relationship with Jesus. It's real to us. And being an associate pastor, I don't force anything on my kids. I don't make them act a certain way, because that can be a whole nother conversation about pastors' kids and church hurts and different things. But I've just really sought the Lord on how do we live this as normal life
Hmm.
without causing wounds. And so in the midst of that, reading our Bible is normal. That's just what we do together at nighttime before bed. So all my daughter was 4 at the time, and all of her friends are bringing a book to school, and the teacher would read the book in circle time. And so my daughter, just being childlike, brings her Bible to school because that's her favorite book, and doesn't know any different. And so she brings the book to school, and her teacher is from an Eastern country and of a different religion and different background. And she tells my daughter, you keep your Bible in your backpack and you keep Jesus at home. So you can imagine how that may have made me feel,
Hmm.
some of the feelings and emotions and thoughts that got stirred up. And in the midst of the culture of today, of everything we're facing,
It's
and
everywhere.
it's everywhere. And the public school systems are changing, uh, changing everything. Changing definition of people, of humanity, of genders, of marriages, of all these things, and redefining what they call normal, what we call biblical. um, and obviously our job and our role as Christians is to pray and intercede and all of that. But I also feel that me myself, and I think many would agree, that we've kind of taken a back seat and just
Yeah.
let other people do that. And I just feel that it's actually the church's responsibility to stand up and take our place and take authority and actually do something and give families another option.
And so what did you do there with your daughter in her class?
Well, so my wife works at the school, which made it a little bit more challenging. So she said, "Please let me handle this." I said, "Okay, you've got one shot. Go ahead." And she thought she did. The teacher said, "Okay, she can bring her Bible." And then a day or two later, she comes back and she says, "Oh no, I've talked to the county school, and no, that's not allowed." So I did a little bit of research and printed out some papers and just let them know what our rights are as parents and as children, and their freedom of speech.
Hmm.
And really did her job, which was define what is and what isn't allowed within the schools, and took the head of school and the teacher aside, and
Hmm.
and gave them a little class.
Yeah.
You schooled them.
I
He took him
schooled
to
them.
school. Well, and that took courage, and it took time, and it took energy and
Research.
research, and it's really Leslie, you talk about this a lot, that we abdicated to the church and
Yes.
to schools.
Yeah, we've abdicated the spiritual formation of our kids. Our generation, very guilty anyway, to the local church, drop them off at Sunday school and make sure they're in youth services and they'll be fine. But our college age young people are leaving the churches in droves once they get out of the house. So,
Yeah.
and we've done the same thing with the education system. We've gotten ourselves real busy. And so we're not paying attention to what's happening in the schools. And I think Matthew paints a great message here. You don't have to. And while Matthew's going to talk about the Montessori school that he and his wife are establishing, you may not have that option in your community. It may not have the resources to start it, but you do still have rights in your school. And it's important to know what those are.
Yeah. So tell us, Matthew, so you got provoked a little bit. That woke up a timeline. You were telling me the other day, I think it was back in 2016, that you had on your goals in your calendars or whatever to start a school. That was a catalytic moment for you, kind of enough's enough. So tell us about your choice from there, and tell us about what you're doing to establish the Christian Montessori Academy.
Yeah. So that really, kind of expedited things because it, like you said, Randy, it had been on my vision list and kind of part of what we had been looking at and just praying about since 2016. And life. I mean, we went out and did full-time missions, long-term missions, traveled the world, did a lot of amazing things. And I guess it really wasn't until it started impacting my family, because it was kind of a foreign thing at that point. It was, yes, children, yes, the next generation. So that um, that event kind of was the catalyst to say, okay,
Mhm.
and then just with everything going on, it, as my wife, as a Christian, being in the school systems and kind of under those, under the thumb, so to speak, under those leadership, she's limited in what she can do when her heart and passion is really to equip children in the fullness, to walk in the fullness of the power of the Holy Spirit. And so her, having a job and doing something she's passionate about, but yet has a lid on her to not
Mhm.
fully come alive, has been a hindrance. So, um, really, even before this, we had started doing the research and started doing the legwork, the paperwork, working with the city, working with the state. And, it was just kind of hiccup after hiccup and challenge after challenge and roadblock after roadblock. And really it was, a little bit of fear, because it takes faith to step out and to start a school. And I had that coaching call with you, Randy, and you had just walked me through, just asked me some questions and helped me to process. And that really gave me the faith and the boldness to really step out and say, no, no, this is God. There is risk involved, but with that coaching conversation, it just really helped to say, okay. And it's given me the boldness to, now my line has been, which giant is getting slayed today.
Come on.
All right.
And that's just an attitude of heart that I'm choosing to take every day, because the easy thing is, if you've got 20 things to do, I think natural tendency, at least my natural tendency, was to do the easier things and get those, so you feel accomplished. You've checked 20 things off the list, and that giant stays at the top of the list, and the next day you get another 15 things and you still feel accomplished because you've accomplished some things, but the
Yeah.
giant never gets slayed.
Yeah.
And I've just decided that I'm going to wake up and ask the Lord which giant needs to be slayed today, and I'm going after that giant, because I'm tired of those things staring me in the face and scaring me or slowing me down or hindering me. And that's really what this school was. That's really what the city was. That's what the state was.
Mm.
And I've just taken one of those giants at a time and just said, okay, I'm going to start reading. I'm going to start researching. I'm going to start diving in.
Mhm.
And we've been working through, city code, state code, minimum standards, and just little by little, we've been making ground and making headway, um, in what we're calling Christian Montessori Academy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
tell us about, for those who are listening that don't really know that term Montessori.
Okay, so Montessori is a different approach. Maria Montessori was a doctor in Italy. I believe it was about 100 years ago. And she just began working with kind of some of the inner city children, and children that basically had no interest in going to school in the traditional school systems. And they were a little bit behind. They were having some behavioral issues and challenges. And she took these children and basically created a method which is now known as the Montessori method of teaching. And it's a more hands-on approach where instead of the teacher, in a sense, standing in front of the class teaching what she desires, there's a classroom full of what they call materials, and they're wooden materials. And the teacher is in the Montessori world or Montessori environment called a guide. And they actually follow the child, where the child goes towards the materials that interest them, and the guide comes behind them and guides them in how to properly use the material. And each of the materials have a purpose that actually build upon the next. So, like right now, my 2-year-old is got what would look like, per se, a Parmesan cheese little shaker and toothpicks would be the best way to explain it. And he's learning how to take the little toothpicks and put it in the little holes. Well, we think, what's that about? Well, it's helping to develop the pincher grips and the different receptors. So at 2, they're already beginning to and high and eye hand eye coordination to get it in the little hole. So they're using all these things to even begin developing so the child can learn to write at 3 or 4 years old rather than waiting till 6 or 7. So
Nice.
all of the materials are kind of built around this method that help prepare the child for the next steps. And now my 5-year-old, who's not in kindergarten yet, is reading on a second grade level, doing addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division.
Hmm.
What is she going to do when she goes to kindergarten?
Yeah.
Where they're teaching her how to write her name when she's already writing notes and writing little letters, but full sentences.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a far cry from a lot of our school districts right now, where we're getting reports where even children are graduating from high school, they can't read, they can't do math. I mean, it's really, in some communities, it's just horrific and scary, I
Yeah.
think, for our culture. So so tell us just a little bit about, I know there's been a couple of big miracles, and you're going to be launching soon. And if you were sitting here talking to some parents in your community or around the country, saying, making your case for taking responsibility for the education of your kids if it's not happening in the public schools according to a biblical worldview, what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, as parents, we have rights. And I think at minimum, instead of scrolling Facebook or Instagram or social media, if we just spend a few hours in learning our rights of what the rights our children actually have, and what our roles are in our children's life regarding their school systems,
Mhm.
and taking the time to engage our children every day. I mean, I get it. At the end of the day, from everything going on in life, we're exhausted. But to me, the most precious time I can do is spend that hour and a half before bed. Because at dinner, they're not talking. They're horsing around, they're screaming and laughing and making a mess. But you get them to bedtime and you start to quiet them down. Well, that's when everything starts to come out. And actually, all of these conversations that I've had with my daughter about the Bible, when the teacher said, keep Jesus at home and your Bible in your backpack, and there's much more than just that. But all of those conversations did not come out at dinner when I was asking how her day was.
Mm.
All of those conversations came out at bedtime. And so I would just encourage the parents to, take the time, slow it down, give yourself an hour, depending on how many kids you have, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever it takes to really connect with the heart of your child, because it's in those moments that they're going to open up and tell you what is happening at school, whether somebody's bullying them, somebody's touching them,
Mhm.
teachers saying this or doing that. So be involved. These children, it's our responsibility.
Mhm.
Our children are our responsibility, and we can't leave it up to church youth group. We can't leave it up to the public school systems or private school systems to teach our children. It's our responsibility. It's your responsibility.
Yeah.
That's good.
So people in your network, your neighborhood, your geography, wherever your target is there for the school, if they're sitting here and they're hearing this and they're saying, I really need to talk to my kids, and when they do and they find out, wow, there's some really bad things that are going on. What's that process look like for them to reach out to you and to find out more and to make a decision around whether or not to include their kids in your school?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's christianmontessoriacademy.com. We have, contact links and all of that where we can be contacted and reached. And my heart is to serve, so even if you're not in my area, not even if you're not in, you know Texas or Fort Worth or Dallas, my heart would be to equip you and empower you to take the next steps to protect your children and to give your community another option. It
Yeah,
doesn't always have to be plan A or plan B. The enemy tries to make us think there's only one option or two options. That there's always a plan C, and you may be the one responsible, or the one that God's asking to do something about the challenges and the problems that you see every day.
yeah, that's a
That's
really good
good.
point. I think Texas recently adopted this law as well, if I'm not mistaken. But in Arizona, the federal dollars now and state dollars follow the student, not the school. The teachers' unions were enraged, but
Hmm.
it has really created an opportunity, I believe, for churches or for believers to create some new school options of choice that where they can be funded even with some of the dollars that normally would just go only to the public schools. If somebody like that uh, in is Texas that way too?
I'm not sure. I believe you've mentioned that to me. I have not heard that.
Thought I read Governor Abbott did that. That might have been just a smaller city or something. But regardless, if somebody has an interest in this, it's funny. I've heard it said once that the expert is the person in the room that knows just a little bit more, knows the next step than the person they're
True.
talking to, and you certainly know a lot more. We've got just a couple minutes left. Talking to those people around the country that might be hearing you, what are the first couple of steps if they wanted to lean into this and possibly make something happen like you're doing?
Yeah, so it really, at first glance, it really seems overwhelming. I mean, it really does. But really, the first step is looking into your city code. What is the city ordinances? What is the city um, requirements? Essentially, this one particular city I'm in is one of 8 in our whole DFW metroplex that has our own health department. Um, which they are stricter than the state of Texas. So, I had my mind set on Texas and following the minimum standards. So then I found out that, going through the process. So the first thing is find out what your city code is, what the allowances are for opening a child care center in your state or in your city, and then finding out your state. You've got the minimum standards, and those are basically the laws and the rules that you've got to abide by in order to open a child care center. Because we're calling it Christian Montessori Academy. The children that we're serving is 3 months to 5 years old. And when I first, met my wife, I thought she was a daycare worker until I met her children and realized how independent, confident, and bold they were at those young ages
Mm,
because of this Montessori curriculum. So
mhm.
that's why I'm saying a child care center, because that's how our state, at least Texas, defines it. But it's really not. There's things to learn, just how to keep your children safe. Um, but it's really not. If you just break it down into, okay, what does my city require of me, and what does my state require of me, and then start working those processes, it's really, it's a Goliath. It's a giant that will fall very quickly because it's screaming and yelling, I'm big, I'm bad, but it really
Yeah.
is not that big of a deal.
Wonderful.
Well, it certainly is important, and thank you for being your bold, courageous self. And as one of our FRP coaches, we're sure proud of you and Shani. We're praying for you. I really believe you're going to blaze a trail. I think there's going to be a massive, I really do. I think there's going to be a massive uprising that continue across the country where parents have just had enough. And instead of demanding change, that's not probably going to happen in our public school systems, that they're going to make that change, that they're going to become committed and ready and take action. So I hope that they'll reach out to you. Any last words from
I just
your
want
thoughts
to
here?
point out again, if you didn't catch the website, it's christianmontessoriacademy.com. Reach out to Matthew. I know that if you reach out to him, he will call you and he'll have a conversation with you.
Yeah. Last words from you, Matthew?
Slay your giants, God is with you. It's our responsibility. Don't leave it up to the public school systems. It's your responsibility. We can do something about this and really raise a generation that's going to change this nation.
Yeah, we're going to have you back. We're going to walk through your progress and continue to hear about the giants that you're slaying. But thanks for being with us today. That's it for this episode. And remember, whoever wins the family
Wins the culture in the end.
See you next time. That wraps up another inspiring episode of Transforming Families with Randy and Leslie. We hope that today's conversation has left you feeling empowered and equipped to take action.
Remember, transforming families begins with transforming ourselves. Let's be intentional, loving, and persevere. You're not alone. We're right here with you.
We believe Proverbs 24:3. Wise people are builders. They build families, businesses, and communities. Through intelligence and insight, their enterprises are established and endure.
Thanks for joining us today. We encourage you to stay connected with us on social media, join our email list, and learn more about our resources and classes at the Family School by visiting thefamilyreformationproject.com.
Remember to subscribe, share with your loved ones, and spread the word about transforming families. We'll see you on our next episode. And remember, whoever wins the family wins the culture in the end.